All deception is to be on guard against its use.
Land battles in Shogun 2 are a very different affair to the games that we recently made, like Empire and Napoleon. This is predominantly, until the kind of middle age of the game, about hand-to-hand fighting, kind of feudal Japanese martial arts ability. And that sees you kind of deploying katana troops, yari troops with spears, naginata guys who have these large kind of curved blades at the end, and of course a variety of different archery type troops as well, and cavalry. And again, the initial aim there is on accessibility and balance. It's very simple to pick up and it's very hard to master. And the idea is that the real depth and the complexity comes in at exactly the kind of armies you raise, the troops you use and what you do. Now on the actual kind of battlefields, of course, one of the first differences people will notice are the kind of visual differentiations. So essentially the unit types, there's literally probably only between 30 and 40 different types of unit. Now if you imagine, that's down from over 300 in our previous games. So for a game like Shogun 2, the depth and the strategies is really in the kind of things that the units can do and the special abilities that the units have and the way that you employ them against each other. But essentially, of course, what you want to look for is the rock, paper, scissors dynamic between units. You want to use cavalry against archers, you want to use archers against infantry, you want to use spears against cavalry, all of these kind of basic mixes. And then within that, of course, it's literally the kind of type of armies you build and what you do with them. And we've still got the very kind of similar and impressive kind of visuals of the combat mechanics that that Total War is very, very famous for. These large-scale kind of hand-to-hand brutal melee battles that you kind of see more in cinema than you do in games. To that end, the units have got a great deal larger detail on them. As I was saying before, we've got about 8 different body parts per unit. Now that doesn't sound like much, but when you consider that we can render up to 56,000 units on screen at any one time, you're talking about a lot of detail in each individual one. Each unit even has, I think it's about 49 bones per skeleton, so that they actually flex and move properly and they can fight very, very well. You get much more realistic kind of hand-to-hand combat coming out of all of these different units. We motion capture professional martial artists to make sure that you get a very realistic look and feel to the combat as well, and that fluidity is really present by upping the bone count in the bodies and of course upping the polygon count on the units themselves, allowing us to get a lot more detail into them as well. You'll notice that on the battle side the UI has been simplified and kind of overhauled too, so that all of the kind of major things that you can do with the game are kind of presented in the little radial buttons just above the actual unit card itself, and that tells you straight away what kind of special abilities and upgrades the unit has and what kind of special formations, for example, it might be able to pursue. And all of these things are researched and upgraded on the campaign map using the technology tree. So it's a very symbiotic relationship. You build new buildings on the campaign map, you research new technologies, and you get access to different things for your troops on the battlefield. One of the other big things, of course, that we've mentioned previously is, when linking to the campaign map gameplay as well, is the environments and exactly how that affects the battle too. So, of course, for Shogun 2, you can now choose to fight at night. So if you take on a battle in the evening, you'll get certain benefits and certain penalties. You may, for example, have Battlefield Ninja. Now, of course, extremely effective at night. If you deploy them in an area where it's dark and they can use the forests as cover and the like, they can be a really, really good kind of hit and run, almost Spec Ops assassination squads against enemy key units. And they work really, really well for that. However, choose to fight, at dusk or even indeed, midday in a clear summer's day, or indeed at spring. And of course, your archers will have a much better range, reload kind of speed and everything else, and greater accuracy because they can see their targets. And all of these things are taken into account in the actual kind of battle dynamics and what they do. Of course, as I said, all different units have a number of different powers and kind of power-ups. To give you another example on what we've done for the level of detail, all of the trees are now hand-modelled. We don't use like an automated program to do that anymore. And there's a chap in the studio whose actual job it is and whose passion it is to create and animate trees. It takes all kinds, and we're very, very thankful to have him because as a result we get some of the most realistic looking trees in the game. And there are over, I believe it's 80 variants of tree for seasons, and that's 80. And all of that just means that you get the most realistic battlefields that you can possibly get. And the battlefields vary, of course, all across Japan. You've got these kind of very unique sort of valleys, peaks and mountains that are unique to the Japanese topography. And in addition to that, of course, you get these kind of flat plains and as well as these beach kind of engagements and everything else.